So this is part 6 of the design process, all about that full garden design. Not the concepts, but the completed design that any contractor can accurately bid from. So here's how it works. You met with a designer, they presented some concept ideas, you discussed it, figured out which concept idea or a mixture of a few that you liked. You selected some plans and some hard surface materials, and everything's been picked out. Okay, great, now what? Well, now this is where the designer will create detailed drawings. There's 2 main types of detailed drawings, hardscape plan and planting. Now what exactly is that? Well, the hardscape plan, which is just more for the contractor to know, shows exactly where all the hard surfaces are, and may even have dimensions of where that material is. Maybe there's a path and it'll say that path is 6 feet wide or 4 feet wide or whatever it is that is being designed. And it'll say that that path starts at this point, so many feet away from the wall. And these are just mainly so the contractor can install it. But the hardscape plan will also say that path is going to be X material, X flagstone, X color, X name of whatever it is, or it might be pavers or decomposed granite or whatever. And this is where it was found, at such and such building supply place. If you're going to have decorative rocks, it'll show those rocks. If you're going to have a dry creek bed in your garden, it'll show the exact location of where the proposed dry creek bed is. Now the second plan is the planting plan, which is kind of planting / lighting for most people, myself included. Now what this means is, it'll show exactly where each of the plants are. It'll show through a legend, this symbol corresponds with this plant name, this genus, species, common name. There's this many quantities of that plant, and this is the size we're using, 1 gallon, 5 gallon, 24-inch box, whatever it may be. Now the way I typically tend to do my planting plans is each plant gets a circular symbol in the drawing that coordinates the circular symbol in the legend. And if there are 10 of those circular symbols, that indicates that there are 10 of those plants. Now what I also like to do, which is what every designer does, is account for how wide that plant is going to get. So let's say there's a plant that's going to get 4 feet wide. I will draw that circle as a 4 foot wide circle. Because if a plant's going to get 4 feet wide, 5 feet wide, it's going to need that much room to grow. And that alleviates the whole purpose of packing it in, because you can't pack it in. If you decide, oh, but I want a few more plants, oh, but in the beginning it just looks so sparse, that's okay. If you're patient, it will grow. Good things come to those who are patient. And that's the thing of it, is when you're putting plants, not just in the ground, but even on the drawing, you have to account for the ultimate mature size of the plant. Now typically on the planting plans, the designer will also locate some lights. And the thing with lighting is this. First of all, you want to be able to light the path. So if you or someone else is walking at night, you can see where you're going. But you also might want to be able to uplight some sort of cool water feature or some cool plant arrangement. And this is where the designer can tell you, I think it would look best to have so many lights on this path, to have a path that lights this really cool plant, whatever it may be. And the designer will kind of work with you to figure out what will work best. And the designer will also work with you to figure out what accessories will work best in your garden. From table and chairs to pottery to just various other elements, maybe even a cool fountain, a cool sculpture. These are all things that your designer will work with you, and your designer knows where to get these materials at a reasonable price, as does the contractor. Now, let's talk about irrigation plans. Typically, if you've just got a residential home, unless it's specifically required by the city or the HOA to have an irrigation plan, then you don't need one. Here's the way it works. If your existing irrigation system works, and it's fine and it isn't broken and there's nothing wrong with it, then the contractor will just retrofit the system to make it work for the new landscape. So you don't have to gut it out and spend even more money. Now, if you've lived in your house for over 30 years and the system is whatever it was when you first bought the house, all right, then maybe you should replace it and get something brand new. Now, there's also the subject of, do you go drip? Do you go spray head? What do you do? So here's the thing. If you're putting in California native plants, I don't recommend drip, because California native plants don't like to be drip irrigated. They're not in the wild. If you go into the wild to Casper's Park, Peters Canyon, wherever it is that you hike, you don't see drip tubing because it doesn't exist. Now, I'm not saying that you can't use drip. Yes, if you've got a really small, less than 5 foot wide planter, it would be ridiculous to use spray heads. Okay, in that case, it's okay to go drip. Okay, so now you've got a final design. Then what? Are you going to go find your own contractor? What do you do? Well, you don't have to. Each designer has contractors that they can refer to you. Now, I'll use myself as an example. I tell every single one of my clients, and I also write this in my bid, that I have a network of contractors that are licensed, bonded, insured, have workman's comp and all that jazz. And these are qualified contractors whom I know will do a good job because I have worked with them before. I'll bring one person to come out, bid the job. If you like the person's price tag and personality, you go with it. If you decide, hey, you know what, maybe we can get someone else, no problem. We get someone else. And maybe we even get a third person. But the cool part is, you don't have to worry about vetting the contractor and finding the right contractor because the designer has already done all of that work for you. And because the designer has already worked with this contractor, you're not worried about, are they going to get along? Are they going to be able to work together well? They've already gone through all that. Now, it's very important that both the designer, the contractor, and you simultaneously meet to go over the design. Why is that important? Because the designer needs to explain to the contractor what the design is, and you need to meet with the prospective person that could be installing your yard. Let's say, for example, you meet with 3 contractors, and the price to install your garden is about 25 grand. And each of the contractors are anywhere in between 24 to 25 grand, give or take. And you say, okay, well, numbers are about the same, but you know, I think that guy or that lady's personality was just a much better fit with mine. Or you decide, you know, I liked all 3 contractors, they were nice, but you know, I'm going to go with him because his price tag is the lowest and it's only off from the other 2 by a couple $100, no big deal. So when you meet with a contractor, you get a sense of the person who's going to be installing your yard. And they get a sense of what it's like to work with you, even if it's just an hour-long meeting. And they get to see the project and see what's going on and what's existing on site. They'll test your irrigation and they'll do all that jazz. And then the contractor will submit a bid. Usually they'll email you a bid. And the bid, at least with the contractors that I work with who are all professional, is itemized. For example, there'll be one line item for what it's going to cost to demolish your garden, whatever it is they're demolishing. There'll be another line item for planting, materials, and labor. Another line item for lighting, materials, and labor, or whatever it is that they're doing in your garden. Each of these line items are going to be exactly what it's going to cost to install your landscape. And then from there you can choose your ideal contractor. Now, the contractors that I work with and most professional designers work with work one project at a time. Now what that means is, if they're working on your project, they're not off somewhere else working on some other job. They will be at your house working on your project, and they will only go off to another project once yours is completely done. And that is the cool part about hiring a licensed professional contractor that is referred by your designer. Because I, as a designer, would never refer a contractor that works on multiple projects at the same time and doesn't do a good quality job.